The rain hammered against the pavement like bullets as I sprinted through the dark alley, my heels abandoned 2 blocks back, my dress torn at the hem. Blood trickled from my split lip, and I could hear Marcus's voice echoing behind me, getting closer. "Emma, you can't run from me forever." 3 years. 3 years of walking on eggshells, of makeup covering bruises, of excuses to friends who eventually stopped calling. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight I'd finally gathered the courage to leave, to pack that small bag hidden under the bathroom sink. But Marcus came home early, and the look in his eyes when he saw my intentions was pure rage. I burst onto the main street, gasping for air, my lungs burning. The street was nearly empty, just a few cars parked along the curb. Then I saw it, a sleek black Mercedes with tinted windows, its engine purring softly. Without thinking, operating purely on survival instinct, I yanked open the back door and threw myself inside. "Please," I choked out between sobs. "Can I hide in your car? Just for a minute, please. He's going to kill me." The interior smelled like expensive leather and cedar. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely pull the door closed. That's when I noticed the man in the driver's seat hadn't moved. He sat perfectly still, one hand on the steering wheel, the other resting on his lap. Even in the dim light, I could see he was impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, and I felt my breath catch. They were the coldest gray eyes I'd ever seen, calculating and dangerous in a way that made Marcus's fury seem almost childish. "You're bleeding," he said, his voice low and controlled, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. Before I could respond, Marcus appeared on the sidewalk, his face twisted with fury, searching frantically in both directions. I ducked down instinctively, pressing myself against the seat, my heart threatening to burst from my chest. The stranger's eyes never left the rearview mirror. He watched Marcus with the intensity of a predator studying prey. Marcus approached the car, and I stopped breathing entirely. I could see his shoes through the tinted window as he peered inside, trying to see through the glass. My whole body trembled. 3 years of fear condensed into this single moment. Then the stranger did something unexpected. He lowered the window just an inch. "Can I help you?" His voice carried an edge that made the question sound less like an offer and more like a threat. Marcus stepped back slightly. Even through my terror, I noticed his posture change, becoming less aggressive, more uncertain. "I'm looking for someone. A woman. Dark hair. You seen anyone run past here?" The stranger was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his words were measured and final. "No. And I suggest you leave now. This is not a safe street to be wandering." Something in his tone made Marcus take another step back. "Yeah, sure, whatever." I watched Marcus's shoes retreat, heard his footsteps fade into the distance. Only then did I dare to breathe again. "He's gone," the stranger said, still watching the street. I slowly sat up, wiping at my tears with shaking hands. "Thank you. God, thank you so much. I'm sorry for just jumping in like that. I didn't know what else to do. He was right behind me and I thought he was going to—" The words tumbled out in a rush. "Your lip needs attention," he interrupted, reaching into a compartment and pulling out a pristine white handkerchief. He handed it back to me without turning around. "Thank you," I whispered, pressing it gently to my mouth. The fabric was so fine it felt like silk. "Who was he? Husband? Ex-boyfriend?" I managed. "I was trying to leave for good tonight." He found out. In the mirror, I saw something flicker across his face. Not quite sympathy, but perhaps understanding. "Men who put their hands on women are cowards," he said quietly. "They prey on those they perceive as weaker because they themselves are weak." There was something in his voice, a darkness that suggested this wasn't a theoretical opinion. "I'm Emma," I said, not sure why I was introducing myself. "What's your name?" He was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. "Dante," he finally said. "Where do you need to go, Emma?" The question caught me off guard. I had nowhere to go. My apartment was compromised. I couldn't go to my sister's house because that's the first place Marcus would look. My friends had drifted away during the years of isolation Marcus had engineered. I had $200 in my pocket, a small bag of clothes somewhere in Marcus's apartment, and absolutely no plan beyond surviving the next 5 minutes. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I have some money. I can get a motel maybe." Dante turned then, actually turned in his seat to look at me directly, and the full force of his presence hit me. He wasn't just handsome. He was devastating in a way that made you think of dangerous things, of choices you couldn't take back. A scar ran along his left cheekbone, pale against his olive skin. His suit probably cost more than I made in 6 months. A motel is the first place he'll look, Dante said matter-of-factly. And you have no protection. No way to defend yourself if he finds you. He was right, and the realization made fresh tears spring to my eyes. I have a property. A safe house of sorts, he continued, his eyes never leaving mine. You can stay there tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out something more permanent. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. I didn't know this man. He could be worse than Marcus for all I knew. But something in those cold gray eyes, something beneath the ice, felt solid and reliable, in a way nothing had felt in years. Why would you help me? I asked. You don't know me. This isn't your problem. A ghost. Of something that might have been a smile touched his lips. Let's just say I have experience with men like your ex. And I don't appreciate them operating in my city. His city. The possessiveness in those words should have alarmed me. Instead, I felt the first flicker of something other than fear. Hope, maybe. Or perhaps just exhaustion finally winning over caution. Okay, I whispered. Thank you. I don't know how I'll repay you, but I will. Somehow. Dante turned back to the wheel and pulled smoothly into traffic. We drove in silence through the rain-slicked streets, leaving downtown behind, heading toward what looked like the warehouse district. The buildings grew more sparse, more industrial. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt a strange calm settling over me. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was just that after 3 years of constant fear, I'd reached some kind of limit where more fear wasn't possible. This ex of yours, Dante said after a long silence, will he look for you? I thought about Marcus's face when I'd tried to leave, the rage and possessiveness that had transformed him into something monstrous. Yes, he won't let me go easily. He thinks I'm his property. Dante's hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the steering wheel. He's wrong, he said simply. You belong to no one but yourself. We pulled up to a building that looked abandoned from the outside, but when Dante used a remote to open a garage door, I saw it was anything but. The interior was immaculate, housing several other expensive vehicles. He parked and came around to open my door, extending his hand to help me out. The gesture was surprisingly old-fashioned, almost gentle. Up close I realized how tall he was. I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Come, he said, leading me to an elevator I hadn't noticed. His hand rested lightly on the small of my back, barely touching but somehow reassuring. The elevator opened into a stunning loft apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Overlooked the city, though the glass was clearly one way given the privacy. The space was masculine but elegant, all clean lines and expensive furnishings. The bedroom is through there, Dante gestured. There's a bathroom attached. You'll find clothes in the closet. They belong to my sister. She stayed here sometimes. Past tense. I didn't ask. You should clean up, Rest. Are you hungry? I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten. Starving, actually. Something almost warm entered his expression. I'll make something. Take your time. I wanted to ask why he was doing this, what he expected in return, what kind of man kept a safe house with women's clothes in the closet, but exhaustion was crashing over me in waves, and my lip was throbbing. Thank you, Dante, really. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't found your car. He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something complicated move behind those gray eyes. Perhaps it was fate, Emma. Perhaps you were meant to find me tonight. He turned toward what I assumed was the kitchen. Oh, and Emma, you're safe here. No one gets through that door unless I allow it. And I promise you I don't allow much. The quiet menace in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, for the first time in 3 years, I felt truly protected. As I stood under the hot shower minutes later, watching the water turn pink with diluted blood before running clear, I realized I'd traded one dangerous man for another. But somehow this danger felt different. Dante's danger felt like a shield rather than a weapon pointed at me. I had no idea who he really was, what he did, or what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know that I just stumbled into the car of the most feared man in the city's underworld, or that my life would never be the same. All I knew was that tonight I'd run from a monster and found an angel in the most unexpected place. Even if that angel had the eyes of the devil himself,